Hey, paisans, the time has come. On the air since 2009, the independently produced, non-FCC compliant champ of video game talk podcasting. Here comes Tiger Claw Radio. Here's your host, Critical Failure.
Welcome everyone to Tiger Claw Radio. This is your host, Critical Failure. It is that time again. Let's talk about some video games, listen to some chiptunes, have a good time. Over on Battle of the Bits, they're collecting entries for the Spring Tracks 10 competition, and I submitted a track. I made a track in Famitracker for the first time in quite some time. It felt good to get out there again. So we're going to check out some chiptunes and all that, and more. Hey, you know what? Let's listen to my entry from Battle. We good? Mic went out for a second there. Okay, I had to give this a name that stuck out. What exactly did I call this? Okay, the name of this track is I Ate a Dandelion and Now I'm High from Green Leo on Tiger Claw Radio. Stick with us. It's a simple track that ends abruptly, and over on Battle of the Bits, it seems like they favor a lot of the more polished tracks, and raw chiptunes like that don't end up making the final track list too much. But that's okay, because this is, I think, the first competition I've stepped my toe into where I just wanted to get a song out. I just wanted to get a song out and start commenting on some of the other tracks and really just be part of the group, which I think is that's what I was supposed to do from the beginning. Was stop trying to get on a final track list, stop trying to get into the winner's circle, just stop trying to compete. It's music, it's art. Just have a good time. Do what I can to be part of the community. Shake some hands, meet some people, and make some chiptunes. Weirdly enough, it seems to only, and I'm not sure about this, but it seems to only allow me to upload the one per format. So I don't know. I spent some more time in Famitracker after finishing that track up, and did a couple other things, but I don't know if it'll let me keep submitting. I don't know. Yeah, good times. Let's shift gears and go to a quick Vancast I recorded at the end of last week. All right, it's a Vancast, True Blue. Off we go. It is 9:12 p.m. It's dark outside, and it's raining here in Maryland. I'm headed out to Crackdonald's to get myself a McFlurry, and get one for the wife as well. Gonna have a couple of McFlurries. We celebrate life by shortening it. And away we go, and hoop and hound away we go down the road to Crackdonald's. Yeah, so video games, right? I was messing with the X88 Pro just a few minutes ago, and I got everything done for the day. I got the kids to bed. My wife's downstairs. She's like, yeah, enjoy your quiet time. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. So, I sit down and I turn on the TV to take a look and see how the X88 Pro is doing. It's the Android box. And it's still scraping games on RetroArch. It's running the mobile version of RetroArch. And early this afternoon, probably around, 1 o'clock or so, probably earlier than that even, don't know exactly when. I put an SD card filled with mostly small games into the machine, and mostly small games, but a lot of them, like a lot of Atari ROMs. Excuse me, a lot of Atari ROMs, a lot of Game Boy Color, original Game Boy, NES, that sort of thing. Stuff that's real easy to run, which is ridiculous because this X88 Pro, it's got some power behind it. It can run some solid games. So I got those, and then like a handful of PS1 games along with it. A nice tricked out SD card which also had like 6 or 7 of the kids' favorite standby movies, just in case we end up in a hotel room on vacation with nothing but this box, because that kind of thing has happened before. And I set RetroArch to start scanning the card for games. And a RetroArch scan, if you don't use RetroArch, a good solid scan, it takes a while, because essentially what I'm asking it to do is to search all the directories, all the subdirectories in my SD card, identify the files that are actually usable ROMs, and then bounce each one off of a database to see if there's an entry for it. And if there is, that means downloading thumbnails and artwork and populating its place in the library, as opposed to just, say, grabbing a list of ROMs, like when you do a MAME game audit in MAME or something like that. So sat down and it was still running, man. It was like 8,000 out of 9,000. I didn't think I put that many on there. I don't know what the deal was, but I'm just gonna let it go and finish. We'll check it out tomorrow and see how it goes. I spent my evening so I'm gonna do the curbside, not the curbside. The McDonald's has the parking spaces that you order with your phone and then they bring it out. So I'm gonna put in an order for some treats, and then I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna play this Pow Kitty and play some of the homebrew games that we talked about last week. This is being recorded on Wednesday of last week, by the way. This is actually podcasting day for last week. I recorded all of that earlier today. So immediately after recording, I got a bunch of those homebrew games. I ended up spending like $10, which is very reasonable for what I pulled away. For like 4 games. I can't remember now. Downloaded them, got them on the Pow Kitty, and I'm looking forward to checking them out while I wait for my ice cream from the Crackdonald's. Don't forget my ice cream. And what a night. Let me see here. Hold on a second. I gotta turn into the Crackdonald's now. This has got to be the worst parking lot structure I've ever been privy to. Okay, I am now in the curbside pickup spaces. I have to utilize my phone to make the order. Back after this. All right, I got my order in. I am going to mask up, and I'm going to play some Commodore 64 on my Pow Kitty while I wait for my food. I'll see you gentlemen back in the studio. Here's another one from the Spring Tracks 10 entries. That's not from me. This is from Go To and Play, and the name of the track is Dead Seed, also made with Famitracker. Enjoy some funk here on TCR. I get it that it's still a track that's limited to the confines of FamiTracker, so you can access what the Nintendo could do and what the popular sound expansion chips could do, and that's it. But they can get sounds out of that I cannot when I mess with it. So really got to up my FamiTracker game. All right, so we got one more quick van cast or office cast or whatever from a little while ago. I think late last week. Right, we did one like the day of recording day, and then I think I did another one on that Friday. So let's check in and see how that went, and more video games when we come back. This one being recorded at 3:40 in the afternoon on Friday. I just took a few minutes to play on the X88 Pro. I was playing Altered Beast. All right, let me back up a step. So I was looking around on Google Play Store, talking to Alex Swingle, and this is common knowledge apparently, but there's a lot of these old Sega Genesis games that are available on the Google Play Store mobily and for free, and they support controllers and whatnot. You can download them for free, and there's an ad break, but it's free and it's legal. It's like supported by, they come from the Sega company, and I got a couple of them, and I was playing Altered Beast, and the real price is $1.99, and then it takes the ads away, and then you have cloud save. So I wanted to get one to check it out. I picked up Altered Beast, and I also picked up Streets of Rage 2. Today I played a run through of Streets of Rage 2. I got pretty far. I can't really beat those Streets of Rage games. I just go as far as I can, and that's good enough. But I played it, and it was a good time. I noticed that on the free version I get a little bit of slowdown. I got a little slowdown playing Streets of Rage, but now playing Altered Beast, it's running butter smooth, presumably because it doesn't have to connect with an ad server. But that's been pretty cool, having a game that in order for this game to be better than like just playing it on a Sega emulator, it has to be more convenient and or offer features that the standard emulator doesn't have. And I think this delivers on both counts. Because we got rewind and we got save, which if you get the right emulator, you can still do. But it has a cloud save, which I think is rad. Not for Altered Beast, because who cares about resuming your game in Altered Beast? Altered Beast is a game that was designed... You pick it up, you play it, and if you're stopping, then just the next time you sit down to play, you're going to want to start again fresh. That's the way this game is. But among the games they give away, like this, or sell, I guess, is the Phantasy Star games. That would be awesome, to chill out on my couch and play Phantasy Star on my X88 Pro with my controller, with my little 8-bit do light controller. And then when I'm done, hit the cloud save, go downstairs, resume my family life, and then I can pick up my phone and resume the same save file and work through Phantasy Star that way. I think that's something I'd really like to do. So that's been pretty fun checking out the Sega stuff that's in Google Play. One thing that I picked up that was a big disappointment was there's a couple of bullet hell shooters called the Danmaku Unlimited, Danmaku Unlimited 2 and Danmaku Unlimited 3. They're on Steam, and I've had them for years. They're great games, but they went on sale on Google Play, so they were down to 99 cents a piece, and I picked them up, and apparently they don't have any controller support, which is a big drag. So, bullet hell shmup that you're actually supposed to only play with touchscreen controls, which is garbage. And that's been the challenge of doing native gaming on an Android box, is that I love all the stuff I have access to, and it feels like a truly open platform, but given the fact that it's open, you definitely sacrifice some compatibility, like in a big way. So I don't know. I'm all jazzed up because I had a great time playing Streets of Rage 2, and I'm just finishing up with Altered Beast. It's been overall a good experience, I must say. And with that, duty calls. I got to rejoin the family and be dad, because that's what dads do. I just wanted to get this Sega bit out while it's still fresh in my head. I'll see you guys at recording time. Back again in the studio. I guess this really has been the week of the X88 Pro. That's a system that has come alive for me. I initially got it, just another Chinese Android TV box. And it didn't do what I wanted it to do out of the box, but Swingle gave me some advice, and we cracked the code, and now it's become a really good system. I've been checking out a lot of like mobile stuff and things like that. There are a lot of JRPGs available in the Google Play Store from the Chemco company, and they look very let's say this, better than RPG Maker games, but not quite as good as the classic RPGs. That's how I would classify what the Chemco RPGs look like. It's really cool to see the old school 2D JRPG formula finding new life in a commercial fashion in the mobile market. And I got one of those called Justice Chronicles. And it's exactly as I described, way better than an RPG Maker game. Not nearly as good as one of the classics, but it's been a good time. It really has. The old school turn-based combat, checking around maps, or organizing a party, that sort of stuff. But it's fully controller compatible. So, yes, it's a phone game, but I got it hooked up on the X88 Pro. I chill out in my chair, and I play this RPG for a while. And I liked the experience of doing an RPG because it's not very graphically taxing. If something happens to the controller where there's a little bit of input lag, you'll never notice it. And, yeah, it's just been a good time. I've been looking at the Final Fantasy games for the Android market, and they look good. The response is overall pretty good for the Final Fantasy games, but it's not universal. So it's not like one works and they'll all work, so to speak. If you don't remember, back in the closing days of the Ouya, I was playing through Final Fantasy 3, which is their like port of the DS version of Final Fantasy 3, and I was really enjoying it. And then I just kind of stopped because the internet was going down, and you had to have the internet working to play it. But I really did enjoy playing through Final Fantasy 3, so I thought about getting that again. I might still. One thing that kind of sucks is the Dragon Quest games, or Dragon Warrior, I should say. Is it listed as Dragon Warrior or Dragon Quest? Dragon Quest 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all there, but those are not controller compatible from what I understand, which really sucks, because you could get Dragon Quest 1, like a decent port of Dragon Quest 1, for $3, and I would totally pay that, and then just chill out and have that game with some modern amenities with a controller. That'd be great. But yeah, so that is one of the things that's difficult about playing on a TV using Google Play type games, because there's games that would be awesome but just aren't controller compatible. And another such game is Carmageddon. Familiar with Carmageddon, the classic running over people and smashing into cars? There's a really good port of Carmageddon on the Google Play Store, and it's free, if you watch ads or whatever. And I would have no problem paying the cost to get Carmageddon. But as it turns out, only touchscreen compatible, no controller support. And man, that sucks. Because the original Carmageddon, if you go get a copy of that off of GOG or Steam or something, it's really good, but the control layout, the keyboard layout, you can't change it, I don't think, and it's pretty sluggish. It's not ultra responsive. It's probably more, if you played Carmageddon back when it was new, it's probably more input laggy than you remember. Because I know that's how it was with like Twisted Metal. Going back to the Twisted Metal games, I couldn't believe there was so much input lag, even playing it on the official hardware. So yeah, a port with all that fixed would have been incredible. I was really bummed to find that there was no controller support. But that's one of those things, you know, I got it on GOG, I got it on Steam, whatever. Just got to fire that back up, get Joy to keep working, and hook that the PC up to the TV using a long HDMI cable like I've got it, and I could play it that way. And just Carmageddon's a good game, the original, and I would have liked to have played that again a little bit. I also played some Tomb Raider 2 just yesterday, which was amazing. This is in keeping with the no piracy challenge that I've been doing as of lately. All the emulation machines I have, it just seems appropriate. So I have the Tomb Raider games, the original Tomb Raider series, many times over. I've got most of them on the original hardware, including the one Tomb Raider 2, the one I've been playing. I bought them all on Steam, and then I bought them all again on GOG. So got these games several times over. So playing the ROM on the x88 Pro feels like it's compliant. And that was a good time. I forgot how much I liked those classic Tomb Raider games. The second game, I think they amped up the action a little bit. So I died a couple times in that first level without saving, because I forgot there's no save points either. You can see there were save points in the console versions of the original Tomb Raider, and then from the second one on, you could just save wherever. So I kind of forgot that, and I got like an hour into it and died, and then had to go back. Which sucked, but at the same time, I like appreciated that it was a death that had consequences with it. That was the story of Lara Croft for that evening. She spent an hour looking around, trying to uncover things on the Great Wall of China, only to be crushed by a boulder. Good times. The original Tomb Raider games did not hold your hand, and they were all the better for it. All right, where are we at now? Yeah, so the three games I have on my list for this week to talk about is Tomb Raider 2, Justice Chronicles, the Kemco JRPG, which is available on the mobile market. I think, by the way, Justice Chronicles is also available on the 3DS. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nintendo people, but when I went looking it up to see what the overall opinion was, it seemed like there was some other more legit ports, or from more legit hardware, I would say. And Altered Beast also. I don't know why, of all the classic Sega games, that I paid to unlock Altered Beast, because I also got, it wasn't the only Sega game that I got, but it was the only one that I paid the $2 to take the ads off to see how it was. I should have paid that money for Streets of Rage 2. I should have, because I had a lot of fun with Streets of Rage 2. Just kind of funny. I do like Altered Beast, though. I finally got past the first stage. I never was able to get past the first stage, but I kept at it, and I made it to the second stage, and I died right away. One of the things I like about it is that that port of Altered Beast has like a leaderboard, like a global leaderboard, but then there's also like a global leaderboard for that day, and I was like able to get 5th for the day. So yeah. Few people play it, but not many. We got some stuff going on over at Steam as well. Not too much. They do have a spring sale of some sort, but it's not as big as the winter/summer sales they do. I'm looking at my wish list, which has about 200 items on it, and of those 200 items, 3 of them are on sale. One of them is Party Hard 2, which I do kind of want to play, but it's at $12. And I've been playing too much on the x88 Pro. If I was going to spend $12 on downloadable games, I'd probably go get some more games off of the Google Play Store or something like that. So that's been a thing. I also have been messing around with these handhelds. In keeping with the No Piracy Challenge, I went out and got a fresh copy of LSDJ, Little Sound DJ, the classic Game Boy chiptune workstation program, which, by the way, for years and years and years, that was a $5 program. It's free now. Like the full, no gimped. It's not a demo. It's go ahead and get yourself a full copy of Little Sound DJ. LSDJ, and then leave $1 or $2 donation, because that is I went back to LSDJ a few times over the years, but I never ever got good with it. I even went as far in the early days as to buy a flash cart for the Game Boy that had an LSDJ sticker on it. It was like a branded LSDJ flash cart, so you could play it on real hardware. And I never got good with it. I just didn't. I was always a Famitracker guy when it came to chiptunes. But yeah, I gave that a try a little bit on the POW Kitty, which has been great. That's a system that has really good speakers, by the way. And yeah, not much I can say about it. It's not a game. It's a it's a workstation. It's a DAW. But it's been fun. It's been fun to get back to roots chiptunes again. To find another application for one of those machines apart from just playing the old Nintendo games or whatever. Also, comparing the Ambernick to the POW Kitty, it is worth noting that I put a lot of time into trying to install new applications on the Ambernick machine, not ROMs, but specifically applications that are native to the operating system, OpenDingux, I think it's called. Yeah, OpenDingux. And it was really difficult to do. I could not really make it work. I was able to successfully get Stella installed so it can play Atari now, but I tried many times to get Commodore 64 up and running, and it won't go. I'm convinced it's possible, but I can't do it. I don't know. So I have to go with the POW Kitty to play my Commodore 64 games, and if I want to play PS1 games, I have to go with the Ambernick, and that's more or less the comparison. You know what I find interesting? I went looking around on Amazon the other day. Do you remember Steam boxes? Do you remember when that was a thing a few years ago? They're all gone now, aren't they? Has anyone ever used Steam OS? Because I haven't. That came out while I was in my Linux, like peak Linux interest, and I never installed I never installed it. I never even live booted it and ran it once. Oh man, having an operating system that boots straight into Steam Big Picture and only runs maybe a tenth of the Steam library. Sign me up, brother. Okay, so here's one that I got. So Hemrock reached out to me, and he didn't put this in an email, so I'm not going to read it over the air, but he let me know that apparently Sony reversed their decision when it comes to the PSN for the PS3. So if you've got a PS3, then you still got plenty of time to jump on there and purchase some games and set yourself up with your Doomsday PSN ROM pile, which is great. It's good for them. That's really awesome. Interestingly enough, also in previous weeks, I think it was Sendu who pointed out, yeah, they actually shut off multiplayer for the PS3 a long time ago, or at least they made it so you have to be on the PlayStation Network, or you buy PlayStation Plus or whatever it is to play multiplayer. It occurred to me that is probably why I was able to find good Call of Duty games for the PS3 at the thrift store, because I think when they made that change, there's probably a fair chunk of people who just cashed out and decided not to make the jump into the paying the service charge or whatever it is. Because I know, all of the sudden at the thrift stores, a while back, probably a couple of years ago now, suddenly you could find the good Call of Duty games that were previously big money. And at the time I was just well, I guess it's Madden football. You make it every year, eventually they're going to start dumping them. Yeah, but that's interesting. I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's the people opting out of paying the service charge, and the games just ended up at the thrift store, which is pretty funny. Okay, so we're going to shift gears and go over to the fail bag, but first, it's 33 minutes into the show, usually around the 20-minute mark. I like to tip my hat and thank the sponsors. This is a Patreon-sponsored program. These individuals give of their resources to make sure TCR can come back every single week, rain or shine, no matter what happens. So to them I offer early access to the show when I can, when we go back to Monday. Occasionally we have supporters exclusive stuff over on the Patreon, and I read their names off in a hall of distinguished gentlemen. They are Hemrock, EmeraldRangers.com, Tecmo Balls, Darabka, and Eric Controller. Thank you so much for supporting the show, and big thanks to Emerald Rangers for carrying us over on their Buzzsprout podcast network. Stick around, and I hope you're enjoying the party. Starting off the fail bag with an audio comment that we got from Balzac. Just a heads up, I think you are correct. YouTube did clip out your comment, but I caught it on when you emailed it to me directly and on Twitter, so thanks for that. Let's go there now.
It's April 12th, 2021. I'm just kind of curious, CF, what's your favorite strategy RPG? Because recently I got into Shining Force 3 on the Sega Saturn, where I actually put 30 hours into it within a span of a week, which is pretty unheard of for me for a strategy RPG, because usually I only play about 10 hours and I get bored. But something about Shining Force 3 really hooked me for some reason, and I still probably have to get back to that. But after I put that much time into Shining Force 3, I ended up playing some other strategy RPGs like Vandal Hearts for the PS1 and Fire Emblem for the GameCube. And there's also a couple other ones that I probably want to delve into now that I'm having this strategy RPG kick on the PS1 and Sega Saturn, because those are where the classic ones actually got released. And they're making a lot of new fan translations for a lot of the Saturn ones. Like, they recently released the first Sakura Wars on the Saturn, so I want to really delve into that when I get the time. And did you ever get into Panzer Dragoon as a series by any chance? Because I also, with this new Saturn, got back into Panzer Dragoon Saga, and I actually beat the whole game again on my second playthrough. And it was a pretty fun game. Actually, I think my ranking for Panzer Dragoon would be Panzer Dragoon Saga, Panzer Dragoon Orta, and Panzer Dragoon 1 and 2 are interchangeable to me, but I really kind of like the series. I don't like it too much, like our favorite YouTuber Jerry Terrifying, but I really appreciate the polygonal looking style that is Panzer Dragoon on the Sega Saturn, because I actually recently saw the remake that they just released on Steam, PS4, and Switch, and it looks okay, but I think I just prefer the 32-bit for Panzer Dragoon Order, the 6th generation 128-bit style more than this Unreal Engine looking thing. But if you have no other way to play it, then probably the remake is the way to go, especially when they're going to be releasing Panzer Dragoon 2 remake probably either this year or next year, but who knows when that's going to happen. And one of our other favorite YouTube Burger Writer came back. I think he made a TCR about him coming back, but I'm kind of getting worried because he actually released playthrough of the first Dragon Quest, but after he was done with that one playthrough, he never came back for the past 2 months already, and I'm a little bit worried that he's going to take another hiatus, and I don't know if I want him to do that, because I want him to keep making game playthroughs, but I actually really want him to see more food reviews from him again, and those reviews are usually my favorite part about Burger Writer, so I'm hoping he goes back to either a Denny's or another skillet place and orders some food, and maybe gives it another review like the last ones he used to. And speaking of which, I've been also recently getting into King of Fighters recently, where I actually acquired King of Fighters 94 to 99 on my PS2, King of Fighters 2000, 2001 on the Dreamcast, and King of Fighters 2002 and 2003 on the original Xbox, and King of Fighters 11 on the PS2. And I've been actually swapping my way through a couple of the games, actually. I'm not really sticking to a single one. I've been going through each one of them, maybe like one character and then going on to the next one, and I'm having a pretty good time with it, because I never really got too big into fighting games, but I was always amused by the King of Fighters series though, and now that they have access to all of them, I've been really digging it. And I'm just curious if you ever got into that King of Fighters collection that you got on the Nintendo Wii years ago. What are your opinions on it, and did you ever get into King of Fighters, and any thoughts on the upcoming King of Fighters 15 that's going to be for next generation consoles and PC? And shout out to Hemrock. How's it going, Hemrock? I have a really big topic to talk to you about with this. Watermelon Games recently released their Genesis beat 'em up. I don't remember what the title was called, but this game was in development since 2012, and it finally came out on a physical Genesis cartridge, and I'm wondering if you picked that up or not, because I know you have Watermelon Games' other previous game, Pure Solar, on the Genesis. Are you going to try to go for a complete Watermelon Games collection by picking this game up or not. From what I saw of the gameplay, it looks actually like a pretty decent Streets of Rage clone. So I would have probably picked it up too, but sadly I don't really have a physical Genesis anymore, and I don't really collect physical games anymore either, so I don't really have an incentive to pick it up. But I'm just curious if you bought it or not, since I know you were really big into the Genesis. And finally, I want to get your take on this, CF, because I think 10.5 years ago, you said that you were going to one day get an arcade cabinet if you ever got a house. So now that you got a new office, I'm just curious, are you going to try to make that dream a reality now? Actually, when I was at Costco a few days ago, I actually saw that they do sell stand-up arcade cabinets there at both Costco and Best Buy. They're not actual legitimate arcade cabinets, technically like a Raspberry Pi equivalent of an arcade cabinet, but the actual look of it does look pretty nice. And I think they're less than, I think maybe $300 is what I was looking at the price tag, but you can get a decent amount of games for it. There's one that has a lot of Capcom fighters, would include Marvel vs. Capcom, Capcom versus X-Men, and some through Street Fighter game. And then there's also other ones that have a lot of Namco games like Pac-Man and Galaga. And then I think the one I saw at Costco was actually NBA Jam on an arcade cabinet. And those things actually look pretty sweet. But personally for me, I don't really care too much about getting an arcade cabinet because my living spaces aren't really accommodating for something like that. But I'm just curious now that you probably have a bigger office if you're going to be looking into getting one, because I remember once on the Mondo Coolcast you were saying if you're going to get your own house, you're definitely going to have an arcade cabinet to go with it. So I'm going to be curious if you're going to live up to that word now that we're 10 years into the future now. So I guess that's it for me. So same as always, see you on the next Title Radio.
Something weird happened with the audio. Give me a second here. Are we running at a normal speed now? There we go. I think we are. Balzac, brother, good to hear from you, man. A lot of good stuff in that comment. Let's unpack it. Let's start with the Sega Saturn. Sega Saturn's got a lot of good stuff on it, and whenever I sit down with it, more often than not, begrudgingly so, it usually ends up being the Dumpatchy machine. I sit down and just play Dumpatchy, and it always goes down like this. I should play the Sega Saturn. I got a lot of good stuff for the Sega Saturn, and let's sit down and flip through it. You know what? Why don't we just start things off with Dumpatchy, and then after I play that for a while, then I have to move on to something else. That's when I get called out of my office or whatnot. But love me some Sega Saturn. You talked about the King of Fighters series. My favorite King of Fighters game was always King of Fighters 2002 Unlimited Match, which you can get on several different platforms. I do like King of Fighters very much. Basically, it went like this. Growing up, my buddy Engie was my partner in crime when it came to video games, and he was always a King of Fighters guy, and overall more of a fighting game player. So I got into King of Fighters by proxy when I got older, just so I could play his game with him. But it was kind of too late then. The skill gap was already too huge. He was way better at it, and I could never really touch him. But that's what I remember the most about the King of Fighters games. I favored Yuri, and he favored Leona. So we would choose teams based around that, and I would usually get destroyed. 2002 Unlimited Match had the best roster, in my opinion. And it was before, I think, I checked out. There was, at some point, one of the later games where they went to 3D rendering, I guess to keep up with, like, post-Street Fighter 4 3D rendering, and I just didn't think it was this good. But those old games are awesome. And you asked specifically about the Orichi Saga, which is the Wii release. I found the Orichi Saga, believe it or not, at a GameStop many, many years ago. And I ended up selling it because it does have a number of King of Fighters games on it, but they are all feature-light editions of the King of Fighter games. They are essentially arcade ports. Particularly, there's no singles matches in any of those games. If you get one of those old King of Fighters games on Steam, you can play. You don't have to do the teams battles if you don't want to. The teams battles, that King of Fighters is really famous for. I generally like to play singles, so That, along with the controls just being a little janky, it wasn't bad, but it didn't scratch the itch for me. And since then, all of those games have come out on more attainable platforms. Like my Wii generally isn't always hooked up, but my PC always is, so I have them on Steam. Yes, I ended up letting that go. Not a bad buy if you find it, though. And then the Watermelon Games beat 'em up you asked about. I did some checking, and it looks like that's called Paprium or Paprium Plus. And the game looks awesome, but I'm looking at it, and like apparently they had a thing about like PayPal seized all their money or something. And I don't know how the article that I'm reading about it is dated. It's not dated. I can't tell if this is current or not. The comments are from like 2 months ago, so I don't know. It can't be that old. Yeah, but it looks like they got into some issues, and I have no idea if that was resolved or not. It looks good though. It does. Then you asked about arcade machines, so let's go back in time a little bit. This is an interesting one because he's right. This is 10 years ago I said this. We were talking about. Let's see. I have 3 kids now. 10 years ago I would have had only 1 child. And I wanted an arcade machine. Specifically, I wanted a Neo Geo MVS cab with a swappable cartridge that you could pull out of the back and change the game in it or whatever. At the time, those were popular for like being the 4-game cabinets, but you could find one that was like a 2-slot or a 1-slot for relatively cheap. I'm not going to say cheap, but if you had a few $100s, you could get one of these machines, and it was a real thing. And the cartridges that went in them were also very expensive, but they varied a lot, like King of Fighters. We're talking about King of Fighters. The earlier King of Fighters games, you could get those for a Neo Geo MVS for like $30. For, like a playable arcade board that's legit and authentic is incredible. I don't know what they cost now, but I have to assume they're a lot more than that. I've had 2 kids since then. So space is very much a thing. Even though I have this office that's somewhat large, it's filling up. My stuff from everywhere else in the house is being exiled into this room, and it's causing the extra space to fill. I had considered doing one of the modern stand-up arcade type equivalents, the ones that are not authentic stand-up cabinets from back in the day, but companies that are rebuilding them. They sold one at, hold on a second, let me stop the recording and look it up here. Yeah, here we go. The closest I ever got to getting one of those was paying for like one afternoon. I had considered paying the big bucks for like a reproduction cocktail cabinet. Those are the tabletop cabinets that, they used to have at Pizza Hut in the late 80s. It looks like you can get one of those for just shy of a couple grand. And they look really nice. And essentially what you're getting, and this is why I didn't end up going that route, what you're getting for a couple grand is a cocktail cabinet that runs, based on these descriptions, like almost like a stripped down MAME. 412 games in one. And it's just the MAME cabinet. Yeah, so then I came to my senses relatively quickly and just decided not to do that. I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's funny you bring that up because I have thought about those old days when it was like the number one priority was I want to get an arcade cabinet in my house. I want to get a Neo Geo MVS with King of Fighters on it, and that way I can just be in the market for MVS cabs, or not cabs, MVS cartridges. And I also wanted like one of the classic Namco cabs, like maybe a Miss Pac-Man or a Galaga or something. Am I actually going to do that? I don't know. Because it's not just the space either. It's like I'm thinking about how feasible would it be for me to heft one of those up here? And once I was done with it, how would I get rid of it? Like if there was a cheap cab for like $100, I would get one of those. I would consider getting one of those and then putting it in here and then just keeping it here for like a year or two. And then if I wanted to get rid of it, I'd put it on like Craigslist or Nextdoor or something like that, and then send it on to the next guy. I don't think I need to acquire a stand-up arcade cab as like a permanent fixture of my collection, but it might be nice to have one for like a short period of time. My older brother did that when he got his house. He had an Area 51 cab, which is a diesel cabinet. That's like go big kind of thing. And I talked to him about it years later, and he was like, at the time I wanted to build an arcade in my basement because he had a really nice house. But after the first cabinet, just kind of petered out. So, I don't know. I kind of like the idea of getting a cabinet that runs some sort of open platform. If it's not going to be an authentic cabinet from back in the day, something I can change. But, I don't know. I have to do some more reading about it because I looked into this like 10 years ago and not at all since. So, I don't know. What are you going to do? This is crazy, and I know it's not going to happen, but with my synthesizers, I did some amateur woodworking. How difficult would it be to build a cab? Even a terrible one. I could do it more like with my synthesizer, where it's not like a 1 month project. This is something I would do slowly over a period of time and really look into, how this stuff works. You could build, if it's like $50 for an arcade stick kit, right? So technically you could do that pretty cheap. So lumber and arcade stick kit, and then also some sort of monitor, and then that would at least run like a Raspberry Pi. Then it wouldn't matter if it's authentic or not because I built it with my own hands. You know what I mean? I learned that with the synthesizers, that does mean something. It changes it when you've built it yourself. The downside is I'd never be able to get rid of something like that. The only way to get rid of something like that would be to strip it down again and sell it for parts. That would be like, all right, I'm going to build this arcade machine. It's going to be a permanent fixture of my collection. I don't know. Maybe when coronavirus is over, I could load it with I could work with an indie developer and then get an indie game in the cabinet and then loan it to MagFest so some indie game could appear in their showcase. That might be fun. Especially if it's only $50 for like a control kit. I could loan them the stand-up cab, and then the people who walk by can abuse the controls, and then if I have to pay $50 to replace them, then it's not such a big deal. I don't know, that might be cool. That seems pie in the sky, though. That would involve a good number of people playing ball, and I don't know, far-fetched as it were, but I'm definitely going to do some reading about some arcade cabs. Thanks for that, man. It's good to hear from you. Oh, you also mentioned about Burger Rider. That's right. Yeah, he came back, did some videos, and then disappeared again. I'm glad he's still around because I was worried like he passed or something, and that would have been really sad because we never would have really known about it. But actually, this might not be so bad because maybe he just makes videos when he feels like playing video games, and that's perfectly okay. I like Burger Rider as much as the next guy, but I do also like the idea that he's just out there doing his thing and having a good time and being okay at something else, whatever it is he likes to do. I think that's a more ideal sort of situation. Yeah, shame he's not making videos anymore, though. I hope he does come back again soon. He's a guy who should open a Patreon, because I'd put a couple bucks on his Patreon. Yeah, man, just doing a quick peek on Amazon, and I'm sure you get it cheaper than this. 19-inch arcade game LED monitor for MAME and cocktail cabinets, also industrial PC panel mount. $200. That's $200, but that's a $200 monitor is something that's in the realm of reality, and I bet, I just guarantee that we could find something more feasible than $200. Alright, over on YouTube, we got some comments here. Let's see. There was a bit of a back and forth between me and Welcome Back to Hero, W Hero Team, over on my RPG Maker XP videos. Basically a young guy just asking questions about RPG Maker, and I made a couple quick tutorials for him. Alex Swingle writes in, at 25 minutes, it makes me laugh every time when you tweak the audio settings to sound better while a massive hiss sound starts up during the fixing attempt. Yeah, It happens. Sorry, I don't have an excuse. It's just audio bad sometimes. What are you gonna do? Now it says real comment. 1 hour and 8 minutes in. Technically about downloading games you own and calling it piracy. I'll never get over the circular logic about playing personal backups versus downloading games you own. Nobody citing that fact has ever read the Digital Rights Act. It's only 11 pages long and very clear about the standards. You can make legal backups if the method you use is legal. Taking an NES cart reader that copies the data is reverse engineering, aka illegal. Meanwhile, copying a PC data disk that has no safeguards like Mega Man X4 on PC is legal. Super simple to understand, and it's the main reason I don't bother going through with all these hoops. The law was outdated the moment it was written, since it never addressed the problem. The problem was making digital copies of stuff you own, and 99% of all emulation is piracy by USA rules. Even buying new games built with the hardware of consoles is illegal since they don't have the license to sell those games on said platforms. You see what I mean about how dumb this all is? Well, I'm okay with emulation if you own some copy of the game, because we all know the bare minimum in that transaction was accomplished and shouldn't be punished. By the way, I've been playing Glory of Heracles on my Android box, and for filthy casual turn-based RPGs, I like it. I got about 20 of these turn-based RPGs through the Bundleverse for Android, and now I'll be able to enjoy them. Glad this all worked out for us. That is awesome, man. Good for you. That is super cool. There is a bit of a back and forth that I'm not going to read between him and Mecha Menace, where they essentially go back and forth about the legality of backups and the like. But yeah, it's okay. Just to clarify, the no piracy challenge is an ethical challenge, because there's definitely outdated laws that are governing these things, and yeah, that's a thing. It is, at its core, this is an ethical discussion. Can you have fun with one of these machines without becoming a pirate? I would question you specifically. You said, let's see, if you purchase a newly developed game and then play it on the system, technically that's piracy too. Is it really? I know that there's it's has some legal issues, but piracy on the part of whom? Doesn't that mean Tengen would have been guilty of piracy? Anybody who bought a Tengen game would have technically been a pirate. We had a copy of Bible Adventures from Wisdom Tree when I was a kid. So does that mean we were pirating games when we were kids? That's the thing. I know that copyright laws have been broken in that situation, but I don't know on the part of whom or what. None of that really matters to the issue. The issue is, let's explore things apart from, downloading Mega Man 4. I don't own Mega Man 4. Mega Man 4 is like a $30+ game if you want it on the NES. But it's like 2 seconds to go and download that ROM, and there you go. You got it for free. Congratulations. The whole point is, can we do something else? Never mind if downloading Ophius from that indie game platform, a newly developed game that somebody made, if that's technically piracy. Maybe it is. Ethically, no, it is not. Absolutely not. As far as I'm concerned, that individual has developed this a piece of software. It was never released in physical format, so it's not like he put it out for the actual NES. I collected the data on my own, and I put it on hardware on my own. By the way, hardware that was not developed by Nintendo. I play that thing on the POW Kitty hardware. So yeah, I don't know. You have a point. He made it for the NES architecture. Still could be illegal, but as far as I'm concerned, ethically, no, it is not. No, that's why it's acceptable in the no piracy challenge. They have a good back and forth though. If you want to check it out, it's in the YouTube comments. Let's see. We had one from Light Studios who writes, "Bro, kill two birds with one stone. Make Monday Night Morrowind the Patreon exclusive content." I might. I'm thinking about it. I do want to play Morrowind again, though. For sure. Somehow I want Monday Night Morrowind to return, just because Morrowind is an awesome game. I have a save file that has a bunch of mods installed, and I want to just open that up and explore, see where I'm at, see what mods I ended up installing. Didn't play it a ton, but I got a few hours in. I ended up installing one of those mods that gives you a house, a nice tower that had in Balmora that Hemrock suggested. And I know that arrows are weightless, because I always thought arrows having weight was silly and things like that. Yeah, but that would be a thing. I would enjoy doing that, actually. Sendu, brother, good to hear from you, man. Hope you're doing well. Kazlab says, left an audio comment on both your email and Twitter, since it's not saving on the comments. Thank you for that. I caught it. Interestingly enough, when you originally left the comment, my phone lit up and it said you have a comment. But then when I actually went to YouTube to find it, it was gone. So, yeah, they definitely silenced you on that one. But thanks for getting to me. Desm101 says, it's great hearing your take on using these systems and being so careful not to pirate any games and being so supportive of the homebrew scene. This is the wholesome content we need. Your viewpoint is refreshing and cool to hear your approach on today's climate, where not many are concerned about it. Yeah, I don't know. It originally was a gimmick, and now I'm enjoying it. Now I think it's feels, I don't know, it's like when you exercise and you lift some weights and you go run for half an hour, and then when you're all done, you're like, wow, that really did make me feel better. That's kind of what the No Piracy Challenge has been doing for me. I feel like it's been a very positive influence. I can still play the old games, but I'm very much incentivized to check out what's new in the retro market. Good to hear from you as well, man. I caught wind that you're working on another Searchers project, which would be awesome, because the original Searchers album you released with CME was amazing. It was really good. Hope you're doing well, man. Mecha Menace writes, I had a PS3 on launch day. I reiterate, I was able to find anything, and I knew when there was new stuff available in the store. I will fight you. I don't know how the PlayStation Store evolved. Early on, it was easy to keep track of everything since there wasn't much there. I stopped logging on a few years in, but these comments in response the takes of the early PlayStation are in response to the takes on the early PlayStation Store. I will fight you. Mega Menace, I didn't have a PlayStation on the early PlayStation Store. You got to remember that PS3, that launch PS3 was an expensive piece of hardware. That was what, $600 because it could play PS1, 2, and 3, right? It's the only model that could do that. They took PS2 compatibility out pretty quickly. I have to think that the store has changed, because it always changes in these systems. And I didn't get a PS3 until a few years in. And I didn't really have a problem with it, to be honest. It wasn't perfect. I'll give you that. But I didn't mind. I thought Steam was a little better, not gonna lie. But I definitely had... we bought one of the TV controllers for the PS3 pretty quickly, because it was our family Blu-ray player. And I would just sit there with my TV controller, my TV like PS3 remote, and cruise the store and check it out. I don't know. I did okay. I have to think that late in the life of the PS3, there was an effort made to minimize attention to certain things and maximize attention to other things. And I think that's just normal marketing. It's not good. I don't consider it ethical, but I think it's very commonplace. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at a video of what PS3, the store, looked like on launch day. Did they have PS1 games available to purchase for the PSN? Like when PS3 launched on launch day? What was it like? Like, what did they have that was worth getting? I don't know. Mecha Menace, good to hear from you, brother. We don't always agree on everything, but I always appreciate you checking in and telling us what's up. Light Studios. Didn't mean for this to be shots, but I may as well roll with it. It is inaccurate to say 5 years of PSN support. Maybe there's only 5 years left on the PS4, but from PS3 to PS4, PS4 to PS5, there's been a 7-year gap. Regardless, the more important point is the length and launch to drop support. One can get away with skipping every other generation. The PS3 was supported for 15 years, 2006 to 2021, which is only 1 year shy of Steam's support for Windows XP at 16 years. I had my PS4 for about 7 years, and I still get plenty of use out of it. I don't at all feel the need to upgrade to the PS5 anytime soon. Although, let's face the facts that support is probably dropping because of the lack of use. Heck, a lot of us probably didn't think about the PS3 Vita eShops for months, maybe years before they said it was going to be dropped. P.S. They did say we can still download already purchased games /DLC and redeem codes. Side note, in response to one of the comments that I read, I forgot to note the time of. If you want a non-trolly reason to not support emulation, I live by a moral code that forbids stealing of any kind, and piracy is theft, no matter how you justify or explain it. I'm sorry if that triggers anyone. I'm not talking down to people who use it, but that's just who I am. 100% respect, brother, on that. Yeah, it's had this notion that, like, when it comes to pirating a game, you know, especially those early ones that are like super easy to pirate, maybe it's not benign. You know, the way they handle ROMs on the NES is terrible. They should be more available for cheaper in 2021. But that's just the way it is. So you could argue, yeah, I don't like the way Nintendo deals with it, so I'm just not going to pay the price, and I'll just go get the ROMs. I don't think that's benign. I think that also you get the ROMs, but you also then become someone who steals. I don't know. I think I just wanted to try doing without it to see how. I know a number of people like yourself that I greatly respect who don't for various reasons. So, you know, yeah, 100% respect. I've heard both sides to that argument. I think both sides have a clear, strong case. Yeah, I think that's a good reason not to pirate. You know, what are you going to do? As far as 5 years of support, you're right. I think if 5 years is the estimate from one system to come out to another, but if a system store stays open for 2 generations, that makes sense. It would be like a 10-year plus lifespan, and that's just calculating an average. And the PSN, like for PS3, has been supported for a long time. Yeah, you're right, man. You're right, man. I don't know. I don't know. These are like the nitty-gritty console facts from a guy who's not a console guy at heart. So yeah. Agreed. Also, apparently they're keeping it open, so yeah, they could yet beat Steam's support for XP. We'll see. All right, we need to do something about the sound. Is that any better? I think we're in good shape now. Gaming Beast 82. I enjoy the idea of a no piracy challenge. The fact that people are still making games for pretty much all the old systems is great. I should really get back into the C64 and Amiga games and record more footage. I'm happy I could help you with that Amiga emulator. Did you find any good games to play? I've been playing Diablo 2 again. Got it from Battle.net, and the old one, not the remake. Multiplayer still works. Would be fun to play together. Yeah. How much did it run you? Because I had Diablo 2 like complete in box, just like the local version, and I ended up putting it in the retro box, the retro junk box. So I don't know where that is now. But I would be interested in getting a digital distribution, so I wouldn't have to like disc swap and that sort of thing. I didn't play much Diablo 2. Actually, I played it a little bit when it was brand new, but I left home at 17, and that was also about when that game came out. So, like, the chain of events was Diablo 2 came out, we had it available to play at home for like a few months, everyone was talking about it in school, and then I left home. That was pretty much the end of childhood for me. So yeah, it would be pretty cool to actually go back to Diablo 2. I would like that. I liked Torchlight 2 a lot. Torchlight 2 is, close replica of Diablo 2, I'm told. Yeah, let me know how much it ran you. Good to hear from you, man. I hope you're doing well. Take care of yourself, Sean. I hope you're doing well, for sure. T-Top Deluxe left a comment on my Arcadian Rhythms Eurorack module. And this one really tickles me because this is a Eurorack guy, and I don't get to hear from these people much. That particular module was one. It's essentially 3 light-up arcade buttons, like Sanwa style arcade stick buttons, but you put them on your Euro rack, and the idea is you can hook them up to anything, and they can be triggers. Like you can use them to trigger drums, you can use them to trigger sound effects, and they just send. You push the button, it sends a gate, and you can send that gate anywhere you want. But it was a kit. You had to build it yourself, and I had problems with it and hated to. And he says, lol, I bought the pre-built one too. I swear I did. But I noticed my order confirmation email showed I bought the kit instead. Weird. I figured, screw it. I haven't soldered in a few years. Let me brush up on my crappy skills. Seems simple enough. I spent like 2.5 hours building this darn thing. A few holes were just too far or too close to each other, unless that's normal. And I was a dummy and didn't put all the diodes onto the board prior to soldering them. I wanted to do one side at a time. No. I accidentally got a hole plugged up with solder and couldn't get it out. Lol. Ended up making a connection anyway. But soldering some wire onto one side and clipping the diode down enough to solder it to the other side. Meanwhile, the hole's still plugged up with solder. It works, which I wasn't expecting because of how crappy a job I did. Seems like it should have been such a simple task. Those 3 white rings served zero purpose for me. I'm not sure why they were even included. Yeah, I'm not sure either. Essentially, an arcade arcade buttons have a lock nut on the bottom, and the idea is that's how you fix the button into position onto like a board if you're building an actual arcade style joystick and controller. But in this case, the rest of the module is built around the buttons, so it's not the lock nuts aren't needed. Yeah, I don't know why they were put in there. I'm inclined to think that the buttons were off the shelf, and that's just part of the package or whatever. But I don't know. I didn't have too much trouble putting that one together. It's just that you really had to read the instructions. The bill of materials was super important on that one, because the connections for the buttons were indeed too far away from the board where they were triggering. But one of the things that said in the instructions was when you're soldering on the resistors, you have to keep the clippings, and you can use the clippings to make the jump. Kinda janky, but it seemed to work well, and that was my first real challenging DIY project, and I learned a lot doing it. So I think they did okay. It's a great module. I use it quite a lot. Particularly when I'm testing a drum sound, I don't want to just hook it up to something to have it, play continuously. So I'll just tap the button a few times to get a sample, and then once it sounds the way I like it, I'll wire it into my sequencer. Yeah, they're great. Arcadium rhythms for sure, especially since there's a popular version that only has one button. It's like the big red button, and people seem to really like that one. Arcadian Rhythms has 3 buttons, and they light up, so in your face. T-Top Deluxe, I don't know you, brother, but thanks for checking in, man. It's good to hear from you. Hope you're having a good time. Hope your Eurorack is in good shape and you're still using it and being creative. That's TCR for this week. Wherever you are right now, whatever it is you're dealing with this week, just hang in there, and I hope you're doing well. And thanks, everybody, for checking in. Even though we all have very differing opinions on some of these things, I really like it that we've been able to come together and exchange those ideas. And discuss things, because it seems like it's so hard to do that these days. So if you have a differing opinion, you are still welcome here, by the way. I wanted to make that perfectly clear. Take care of yourselves this week. I'll see you next week.